der zentralen Position. Nur Schwanzer an oder Vorsicht. Dann ist es Freiburg. Er ist im Strafraum. Tor! Tor! Für die Frankfurter Eintracht. 5:1. Herrlich!
Hi and welcome to the German Fußball podcast. Another week, another location for the both of us, but I see you are in my lovely, lovely room with the shirts hanging there. There's a sense of familiarity, so to speak. But first of all, I mean, we saw each other a couple of days ago. But
yeah.
How are you? Good?
I'm fine. I'm back in Norway. I'm back, as you say, in your room, in the studio.
Or your office, maybe now. No
yeah,
longer my room.
TV studio. Now we saw each other on this weekend. I did Arsenal Tottenham. Then I did 5 hours drive together with my colleagues up to do the Manchester derby. And I think we should start with you, Marcus. What was your experience of that derby? And you have to tell us the stats when you watch your Manchester City.
I have an insane stat, actually. That is, I've been to 3 Manchester City games all this season. And all 3 times Haaland has scored a hat-trick. So I can't really ask for more as A, football fan, because even though I'm an Arsenal fan, I do appreciate good football. And B, as every Norwegian should be, very, very proud of a player who I believe scored 9 goals in his first 8 games for Dortmund. Bundesliga too easy, Farmers League, etc. He has now scored, is it 13 in 8 games? So I'm glad to see that kind of perception is still upheld. But I mean, on a different level, and for you as a striker, Dad, it must be insane seeing someone operating at such a clinical goal-scoring level. And
I know that you were a defender because you were taking a goal away from it because he got 14. And the reason I know that is that my expert pundit was a former Leeds, Nottingham Forest and Manchester City player, Alfie Haaland. And also, so he got 18. So I always think it's funny that his father still got more Premier League goals than him. But it's hard, Marcus, to say anything that hasn't been said. And because this is the German football podcast, I think that the German Bundesliga can be very, very proud of both Erling Haaland and Robert Lewandowski, who is scoring for fun, scored a fantastic goal again in La Liga this weekend. But Erling, I mean, I don't like, and I've always said I've been an ambassador for not calling him a monster or a machine. But I do understand that people say that because it looks like he just do that just as it is. And it was an interesting weekend. I got Martin Ødegaard, Arsenal captain, on Saturday, and then Erling going out with his bazooka on Sunday. So it was not only great to be a Norwegian, but I think it's great for all Manchester City fans at the moment. And I got a feeling that all neutral fans in England as well, they seem to kind of, they're so keen to understand this kind of player. And as you can understand, Marcus, I got a lot of people asking me about this, about him. And what I always try to do is to say that he's a 22-year-old that is so good at improving. And as you saw in the documentary that I did with him for the last year, he's one of those who try to improve his game all the time. And this weekend he scored with his header again. You couldn't say that, well, with Christian Eriksen is marking you, but that is another story. That was because of Varane was out. But I think to take it over to Germany, I think that just shows them, and as you said, this stigma of saying that it's a Farmers League, it's gone a bit quiet on the social media about that lately.
And while also acknowledging that the Bundesliga had 2 of the most clinical strikers of all time in their league, which is a credit to the Bundesliga. But let's go into this week's or the last weekend's games. And I guess we'll start with the Friday game. And Bayern, without a win in 4 Bundesliga games, Dad, back to winning ways and looking like their normal self.
This game was called El Crísico because it was a crisis, a Krise is that of German, both for Nagelsmann, but most for Seoane, the coach, the Swiss coach of Leverkusen. Leverkusen, one of the team before the season, which I liked, they said we're going to challenge Bayern, and they'd be terrible. It has to be said. And Seoane spoke to my friend Archie from ESPN after the game, and I think he was quite sensible. He said that this is not a game where it's all going wrong, because 4-0 you can lose at Allianz. Most teams, not lately, but they are losing there. And it was one of those games, the usual suspects. Mané was back to scoring goals. Sané doing that 1-0 goal again. Mm-hmm. And Musiala, I mean, we have a league, Marcus, or we have a football now that we are so blessed that we have 4 kids, and I probably forgot someone. We have Florian Wirtz, who is injured at Leverkusen, so I think it's a part of the explanation, just a small part. But he's out. It's a race for him, the 19-year-old, to come back for the German squad for Qatar, the World Cup. Then you have Jude Bellingham, this week in the first time captain in a starting lineup for Dortmund. And then you have Musiala. I mean, when you see that guy, he's like the boy next door. He's just a neighborhood boy who will come over to you, Marcus, and say, you should go out and play, because he looks like a kid. But on the pitch, I mean, he got a maturity. His balance is second to none. And then just to get it all together, the dots together with Jude Bellingham. They grew up. They played together in the youth national teams. One will certainly be a brilliant player for England in the coming years. He's in the starting lineup now, Jude Bellingham, and same for Musiala. And I can't see any. There is a word in German called Stammplatzgarantie. That is very bad translation. Is that you have a right to play in the starting lineup, Stammplatz, and there are a lot of people now, including Lothar Matthäus, says that Musiala, you can't take him away from that German national team, and he's been brilliant. So, to sum it up, Julian Nagelsmann been criticized for everything the last 3-4 weeks. My friend Christian Falk, who have the Bayern insider that we both like, Marcus, he's been talking to his former club. What went wrong there? Well, he didn't speak to people. Okay, how did he react on superstars and this and that? They were talking about his skating. They were talking about his clothing. I mean, to be fair, some of the jackets he's been terrible. Yeah. But still, I think that is the price you have to pay for it. And the interesting thing is that when you see the Nagelsmann winning 4 in that game, that was so a big relief for him that he said, he more or less said, I listened to Christian Falk's podcast. I read all the things in the papers, because he just take it step by step and explained everything. For the Leverkusen coach, Seoane, I mean, we are taping this, Marcus, Monday late afternoon or early evening. And I saw that the CEO, Caro, I think it's his name, at Leverkusen, say this need to be fixed very, very short. So I think that I thought that maybe they would let him go this weekend, but maybe they felt losing at Bayern was not that game you should do that. So I think they will give him one more game, because I think he's a sensible leader. He's a good coach. He's proven that. So they just hope for a turnaround coming in the weekend coming up.
Yes, because I was about to ask you. You've been a sports director. You've been team manager, and it's interesting to see. And I asked you that on Twitter. Not that we couldn't text each other about it, but I asked you on Twitter. I said that why would you keep Seoane over the national team or over the international break, and then fire him right after the next game? Like, what do you think is going through the Leverkusen leadership's head? And with that also Seoane, because he must surely have a sense of impending doom, as in he knows he is very so close to getting fired. It must be difficult for him too, because it's almost as if you're awaiting that inevitability, which is getting the sack, because he must turn it around now, and it seems like he's had enough time as well.
Absolutely, and I think that he has shown in all his interviews he's done. He says, "I know the business. I know what's going on behind." No, not behind his back, because I will go back to the head of sport at Leverkusen. It was a player I know I like him very much. A guy called Simon Rolfes, who used to be a midfielder for Bayer Leverkusen, and he's very sensible. So it makes sense what you said about the international break. You know, the international break you can use to analyze things, because when the game's coming thick and thin, you don't have you try to do something, then you have 2 injuries and 2 players out for different reasons, and So you don't have the time to analyze why you're not playing so well. So in the international break, you have the time to sit down, and they probably come to that conclusion that Seoane will get maybe a couple of games, because Simon Rolfo is intelligent enough to know that don't expect anything happen at Bayern. I mean, there have been teams like Gladbach who expected nothing and got a lot out of it. So that could have turned around with a win, and everybody said, wow, no, this is the kickoff of our season. But it was most likely they will lose the game. So I think that your analysis was better than mine, because I think that they would probably give him another game. Because the leadership at Leverkusen are not one of those who just do things for doing it. Mind you, there is 2 German coaches. One is Austrian, but still feel like he's German, who is available. Thomas Tuchel. I think they would have loved to have Thomas Tuchel go to Leverkusen. Apparently, reports say that he turned that down to be even discussing that job. He will look for a bigger, no disrespect to Leverkusen, but they're not the biggest club. And then you have Adi Hütter, who was fantastic with Eintracht Frankfurt, but lost a bit of his reputation at Gladbach. So there are people available, but I think that the head of sports, they should always have a plan B. Something could happen to the coaches. They could suddenly say that we resign, as Jesse March did at Leipzig, or had to go, but that was a combination. So, and also for Simon Rolfes, he has included Seoane in his project. So to fire, it's not easy to fire a manager. Sometimes it feels like it's very easy, but if you have a sensible and professional project, you will feel that it's also a failure of your system that you have to fire a manager. And so I think that these are the considerations they're doing in Leverkusen at the moment. It's also a club very run by the Bayern concern. There are different things or values they like to value, so to say, would say it in a strange way. But Leverkusen has sacked managers in their time as well. But it looks like, as we are speaking, that Seoane at least will get another game.
Yes, he will. It seems we say that on a Monday evening. Let's see what the weekend, how the weekend unfolds. If we move on, then let's go with our Eintracht Frankfurt, who are now suddenly up there amongst the big and the little boys who are in the top. No disrespect, but in terms of the season expectations, 2-0, first loss for Union Berlin this season. Was Fischer had extended his contract, or it was at least announced that he had extended his contract earlier in the week. But we saw a Frankfurt firing all cylinders, especially in that first half, a disciplined second half performance in which Kevin Trapp stepped up. Muani, we've discussed him before, for the first goal. Incredible setup, dribbles past a couple of players and sets up Götze for his second league goal of the season. Lindström taking advantage of a mistake in the Union defense. Lovely 2-0 goal. What is there to say about Eintracht these days, Dad? Because it seems like there's a bit more optimism now than there was earlier in the season.
Yeah, Fischer, the manager of Union Berlin, extended his contract, and President Fischer by Eintracht Frankfurt was re-elected. He's been around since my days, and I played it 22 years ago. He's a great character. He's one of those larger-than-life kind of character, very value-based leadership, very inclusive with the fans and so on. So I think he got 80%, which was probably down some couple of percentage, but I mean, it's good enough. I think there are presidents who would love to have, or prime ministers who would love to have that voting, talking about prime minister without backing on a mandate in other countries. But yeah, it's interesting, Marcus, because if you see now, and I do in different columns in German media, especially with Bild Zeitung in Frankfurt. I always say that this start of the season, it was entweder oder. It was either top or down, because imagine they're winning the Europa League, not out of nothing, because they had a fantastic campaign, but still to win a Europa League is unbelievable. And then they got a right to play the Super Cup against Real Madrid. First game against Bayern at home, Champions League was in the pot, and they got it all. So I think the whole club, the whole organization needed to be prepared for that. And it's hard to concentrate, hard to say, yeah, but it's just a normal game. No, it's not a normal game to play a Super Cup against Frankfurt. Sorry, against Real Madrid for Frankfurt. It's not, and then they lost. Was it 6-1 the first game, or they were hammered by Bayern, and but they slowly got in there. And I think that when you have the right coach, Glasner, 3 years in a row, got teams in the Champions League. Trösche, who was a great replacement for Bobic, Axel Hellmann. You have Fischer. You have Philip Holzer, who is the Vorsitzender. So they have so many good people. And I think if you have leaders who steadily steering the ship, the consequence will that you will get out of trouble. Mario Götze was a signal signing, but Muani, as you said, fantastic. But I will take one down. Another usual suspect is Jesper Lindström. It's quite interesting to see when players take steps. They're getting better while you're watching them. I mean, there are players who will like take some years and then they're young kids and that. But he was a typical Eintracht Frankfurt signing where they are in the German league. He was a great player for Brøndby in the Danish league, assists, goal scoring points, and that was a typical player that Frankfurt need to take. And Jesper Lindström came, took him some time to get settled. Then he was on fire, doing great contribution to winning the Europa League. Some injuries, but still managed to stay in there. And now there is something about his steps, and I think people should be aware of him because I think he's already on the block of some of the. No, again, that is at least no disrespect to Eintracht Frankfurt because I, of course, wanted to have him there. But all these players will end up in England at one time anyway. But Jesper Lindström, great Danish player, great one of those. I won't say box to box, but he's one of when he takes on people. He got his stride of it when he did a 50-60 meter run. So great striker. And yes, Union Berlin losing, but still keeping the top of the table because all the other teams, except Freiburg, the other teams were not able to stay in there.
Yeah, and let's go with the people, with the teams in the top. Let's just go quickly. You mentioned Freiburg, they're there. They've drawn their last two games, 0-0, back to winning ways. Gregoritsch scored within 3 minutes. That's his 4th goal of the season, having a very good season. And then, so they're there, tied on points with Union Berlin. And then we have a Dortmund who we just want to so bad just take up that fight with Bayern and lose 3-2, leading 1-0, and Köln just come back in that second half, and then Dortmund just being Dortmund for better or worse. I say this out of frustration because I think it's a team we all want to kind of take that next level. And then is it really feasible? Should we be expecting that of them? They were missing Hummels, who's been very good this season, who there is discussion of coming as a kind of a reserve for the World Cup squad. Royce was obviously out. Wolf was out. What is there to say about Dortmund? I mean, Köln's a good team, but even still, you'd hope for them to win.
Yeah, and the problem is to say something that we haven't said before, because this again was a typical Dortmund game.
Yeah, we're just going in circles, aren't we? But everything seems typical as well. I'm wary of that too, because when they win and they win 1-0, we say, yeah, that's a bit typical Dortmund this season, So
yeah, but they had some. What I've liked with Dortmund this season is they've won some shitty games. I think that is good. They took out some shitty games, and then they had this unbelievable game against Werder Bremen at home. We said that was typical Dortmund, but as you said, Hummels looking much fitter. They have with Süle and Schlotterbeck good defenders. But Marcus, I think we also should give a praise to Köln in this game. Cologne. Of
course.
This is also secret advice to people who wants to see games in Germany. Yes, you have to go to Allianz. You have to go to Signal Iduna Park. But if you're going to then be one of those who says, I'm not having my coffee in New York, I do it in New Jersey, I'm one of those, and that is when you want to kind of discover German football, go to Cologne. Fantastic atmosphere with Baumgartner, a coach that kind of mirror that, and they came back in this game, and Dortmund should have been, they were all 1-0 up. Bellingham was it Brandt, wasn't it? A
great goal by Brandt.
Yeah, great goal, great setup from Captain Bellingham. And then they kind of missed out again. And yes, it's typical Dortmund. But the reason we say that, and we are a bit worried, because we think when all comes to all, it's Leipzig and Dortmund who have to challenge Bayern. Because if you see, Bayern 4-goal games without, but they're still up there. So I mean, they're still up there. Now we come up to their Klassiker this weekend with Dortmund against Bayern. Wouldn't have been great to have Dortmund some points ahead and maybe out of nothing winning those games. And now is the big chance for them, but they couldn't manage, and that is sad, because I think all who loves German football, whoever you kind of support, except maybe Bayern, but after 10 wins, maybe them as well, because I think they would love to win the league in the last game of the season nearly. So let's see Dortmund. Hope they're coming back. And now there is with Frankfurt and Hoffenheim, Freiburg and Union Berlin. They are why are they there? People will say. But Dortmund and Bayern obviously there, and Bayern so high up despite those 4 games. But I think the other challenge, Marcus, and I'll just take the bridge that you will probably say now, is that we should go to Leipzig.
Leipzig, and we have to discuss Leipzig because there's been a lot of noise from the Leipzig camp. Obviously now with Nkunku having allegedly completed his medical and had that kind of agreement, and Chelsea had bid above the release clause to secure his services. And let's just say he does justice to his price after he scores 2 goals in their 4-0 bashing of Bochum. Timo Werner, who was brought into the team after their 3-0 loss to Gladbach, got the other 2. Having followed the Bundesliga as you have that, and in the Champions League for that matter, what does Nkunku provide to Chelsea in the Premier League? Granted, this is in order, and you're welcome to kind of reveal that. And what are the Bundesliga losing by him leaving? Because it is a special player, Leipzig have got.
It was funny, this result and the goal scorers, because you have one going to Chelsea, and then you have Timo Werner scoring 2 goals, reminding the Chelsea fans that maybe not everything that have a great record will do well for them. I think he was respected because he tried, but a bit unlucky, maybe not good enough, maybe not came in with COVID, Timo Werner. I felt sorry for him. I always liked Timo Werner. But had his contribution to them winning the Champions League. So I think that they will always be in those books, so to say. Yeah, the thing is that, first of all, this clause thing is a special German thing that you put in a clause that you can go for. It's very normal. It's normal to do that in the German Bundesliga, and Nkunku got that. And Nkunku is also one of those players who suddenly got so much better. I mean, and good that you said Champions League, because he was excellent part of the Champions League in that campaign. So the thing is with Nkunku is that he fits to Chelsea, but isn't one of the problem for Chelsea that they have so many players fitting to Chelsea? If you understand what I'm saying, because Nkunku is also one of those in and out strikers. He's quick. He has that contagious way of playing football. When you see him, you like football. You see that his teammates love to have him around. So yes, they are signing a player. Maybe again, this is the same thing again. Will that be confirmed as people will listen to this? What we do know, and Falcon Bild said that he's already done his medical. I guess that is a part of his medical, because when he's going to play for Chelsea next summer, I mean, there's a lot of things that can happen between now and then. So, but I think that was a general thing outside Frankfurt. I noticed. So he could be confirmed sooner rather than later. So we'll see if Chelsea will get him. I think that is you will look for players that has a clause, because I think that the big fees will have another jump soon, because it looks like for the best players and the best players from the Bundesliga, mind you, that is also a trend now. You know, nobody's speaking about Farmers League anymore. So if you score 20 goals in the Bundesliga, people will think, yeah, you can do that in the Premier League. Yes. So, but let's see. Graham Potter must have liked to play it too. I hope not. The owner is doing. It looks like he's firing everybody at Chelsea at the moment. So let's see if this is well thought through signing, because I've always been an advocate for doing your philosophy, looking for defined players, and if he fits that bill, and Graham Potter sees him as one of those players I need for the way I play, Nkunku is a great signing. No doubt about it.
Yeah, and he is a fantastic player. And then it will be, like you say, it is about, yes, finding that Chelsea player and then finding the role fitting for him. There are murmurs about in terms of how Havertz fits into the team, having come from Leverkusen and as such, but we can do a Chelsea analysis on another occasion. We can run through the other games and then we can hear your thoughts on it. Schalke, Augsburg 2-0 up. Schalke got back. Augsburg get a man sent off. Schalke lose.
Is that typical Schalke? Wow.
And Demirovic being the main man with the 2 goals. Yeah, we did discuss it out of the season that we thought that Schalke would need to, they have to just make sure that that they stay up. We can also go to Bremen, Rune Bratset's old club, where he is a legend, who won 5-1 against Gladbach, 4-0 up at half. And I was listening to the podcast Phrasenmeyer and Thomas Farke was the coach there. And his hero growing up was Boris Becker. And then I thought this was funny, but I was just wanting one more goals, because then I said, it was a tennis score, but it was 5-1. So the main thing, I guess, from that being, there was talks about Germany needing a number 9. They don't really have that. If they need to switch up tactics, if something isn't working. Here we have Füllkrug now with 2 goals, top scorer. How would it be for you if you, like, from when you're team manager in Norway and stuff like that, you can build a bigger squad than before? Is that something that is worth considering for Germany? Because he has performed very well in the German Bundesliga.
Absolutely. He got a funny career. He's 29. He came from the Werder Bremen Academy, and then he was away from them. I think he was at Greuther Fürth, he was at Hannover, and he was in Nuremberg, I think. And then he came back to Werder Bremen, and he scored, was it 24 goals last season or something in the second league when he came up, and now he got 7 of 8 in the Bundesliga. And yes, I think when you put up a big squad like Germany is doing, I hope it is a knee coming up there, or is it a dog coming?
That's my knee.
And when you have a big squad in a World Cup, there are different kind of games. There are different kind of stages of games that you need a number 9. I don't think that Füllkrug will come in and Hansi Flick will say, okay, then I change it around and I play with Werner and a big striker up front, or Kai Havertz. I think that he will stick to his philosophy, but I think that type of player you need in some games. You can put him on. You always know you're good for a goal. And Germany, big football nation Germany, they haven't had that number 9 since Miroslav Klose. I mean, a legend of the game, fantastic player, been so successful, of course. But they haven't had that kind of player. So of the guys who have an outside chance to come to the World Cup, you have Mario Götze. Can he come back? Doubt it, because I think they have enough player in his position who can do what he's doing. But if he keeps scoring, he keep a name of himself. I know his agent Volker Struth. He said that I always had a dream when I sent him to Holland. I wanted to have a comeback in the Bundesliga, comeback in the World Cup, and make Germany win the World Cup again. So let's see. You have Hummels. Can he have an outside chance? Yeah, he can. Imagine he's fighting it out at the club with the 2 of the defenders who will fight it out in the national team. And let's see. We know what he can with the ball. So he has the ability to have a different time of of defender. And I think that is the advantage for Füllkrug, because there are so many good players coming forward or going forward for Germany, but you don't have that kind of player. So Füllkrug, from the outsider, I would give him a fair chance to be in that big World Cup squad that Flick in 3-4 weeks' time has to nominate.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I don't know if I think there were more questions than answers following that international break for Germany, following their loss to Hungary and draw with England. We had Hertha Hoffenheim the last game, 1-1. Hertha still yet to win at home this season. And birthday boy, Breitenreiter for Hoffenheim, saw their team go up. Kramaric scoring again against his favorite opponent in Hertha Berlin in his 200th Bundesliga game. And then Lukebai Kayo, if I pronounced that right, equalized with his third goal of the season. And just to conclude it, we had Wolfsburg-Stuttgart, first home win for Niko Kovac at home. And Gerrard scores in the 90th minute to surely bring some relief for Niko Kovac, who might still be under a bit of pressure. That concludes that, I believe. I think we've gone through all of the games.
Yeah, I would just say that the last story of the all is like it was a 1-1 for Hertha Berlin. But could it be a more Hertha Berlin week than that in Wester? He had trouble with the president, the acting president, and there is a spy scandal in Berlin. I mean, that is like a John Le Carre role. You don't think it's true, you know? You should have seen the German media. So there is a spy scandal, and they were like sending dirty bags like in the media about.
So within the club, there was a spy scandal.
Yeah, sorry, spy. There's other spies in Berlin that we know from back in the days when East
no
Germany
Russian
was
spies.
Now, now no Russian spies. So this is a German investor who invested a lot of money in the club, and there was always power battles and all that. And also, if we can end with a funny story, I saw a tweet the other day, and he said that it's good. Imagine if we're staying in Berlin. Imagine if the Berlin Wall didn't come down. DDR, East Germany, would have probably won the championship. It made me think, because it was funny to say that, but there was more the reply that I will end with the story with, because they had so many players. Toni Kroos, East Germany.
Right.
Michael Ballack, East Germany. And they said that Matthias Hammer, who is also from East Germany, he would have probably have been the national coach of all of them, building his team around Toni Kroos. And it was quite interesting, because up to 1990, East Germany, DDR, was a team that people or we used to play with. And you've seen my shirt. I play against DDR. But it was funny that one of the replies, because I read that, because I think it was interesting. So I saw what people say. And there was a guy said that now the problem is that Michael Ballack would have probably end up running 400-meter hurdles or 1,500 meters, because they looked at our friend Ove Rössler. They had a look at him, did all the measuring, and then they sent him to a football camp, and he was 12. So very good organized sport, a lot of doping as well, but still you have to respect them for what they achieved in terms of sport. And we forget that, a lot of the West Germany stars, if I may say, in the 90s coming into this year of ours, they have their background from East Germany. So how did we end up talking about East Germany here? I don't know, Marcus.
This is what it's like having conversations with you, though, but it's good.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that's time then to wrap it up.
Yeah, we can have another segment on an East Germany versus West German hypothetical starting 11, and then discuss that. For those who haven't heard Ove Rössler's story, which we must have him on at some point to discuss in terms of being picked a sport for at such a young age. Let's just say you grow up pretty quickly. But on that note, Dad, I think that concludes our 8th round of the Bundesliga, a big Der Klassiker at the weekend, and lots to unpick. But until next time, we'll see each other on the road soon again, Dad, I'm sure.
Absolutely. After you are based in England now, we always see each other at football games, which is not bad for us. So, auf Wiedersehen, mein Sohn, and auf Wiedersehen to all the guys looking and listening to the German Fußball podcast.
Thanks for watching, and please subscribe. And if you have any comments, any issues, themes that you want us to discuss, give us a comment and we always reply to that. And if you know something that we don't know, which you probably do, just give us a shout.